Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first part of our three-part webinar series on optimizing your website for success. We are so glad that you could join us. Today, we are kicking off the series with how design affects the user experience. We'll be talking about the key principles of UX design, why they matter, and how they can transform your website into a tool that drives user engagement and conversions. For those of you who may be new to Threshold, we are a full service agency offering a wide range of services, including branding, website design and development, digital marketing, and so much more. We specialize in serving clients primarily in real estate, specifically student housing and multifamily apartments, as well as financial institutions like community banks and credit unions. Okay, let's get to know our presenters. I'm Jen, Vice President of Creative here at Threshold. I've had the privilege of working alongside our incredible team of creatives and developers for over 10 years to create websites that not only look good, but also drive results. When I'm not at my desk, I'm tending to my urban garden and chickens, making artwork, and enjoying the live music here in Austin, Texas.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael. It's great to meet you guys. I am a web designer and developer here at Threshold. I bring about 7 years experience crafting high-impact web designs, applications, and user-friendly interfaces. I've always thrived on pushing the boundaries of what we could do with technology and design while keeping a traditional aspect on many principles that we know work. When I'm not immersed in digital design, I stay active by cycling, playing tennis, and participating in community cleanup events.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather. I'm a graphic designer and web developer at Threshold. I have a background in illustration and a deep, abiding love of technology, storytelling, and transforming ideas into impactful visuals that resonate with target audiences. When I'm not working, you can find me drawing things on my digital tablet, playing card games with my friends, or spending time with my beautiful family in Canada.
Love that. Thank you both. Are y'all ready to get started?
Sounds good.
All right.
Absolutely.
Very good. Michael, please kick us off.
All right, so let's jump into what we're going to talk about here today. So what is user experience, right? And I get that question all the time as a web designer. So how does it pertain to the internet? Two different things, but they go hand in hand. So we're going to talk about that today. It's going to be great. So let's take a step back first. At user experience at its core, what exactly is it? It is exactly how it sounds, really. It's the experience that someone has when someone's interacting with an object or a system. So now you may be wondering why that's important. Well, we all know when something seems excessively more difficult than it should be, we're dissuaded to use that product. Here's a couple of examples on the right. You can see the first example at the top. We have it would be like a ketchup bottle. And on the left side, it's explaining the user interface versus a user experience, which are two different things, but they are connected. But we're going to see here that the experience on the bottle on the left is not taken into consideration, right? So let's say it's a standard glass bottle. We have to shake it a bunch to get the ketchup out. Maybe too much is coming out at once. It can be a nightmare compared to the one on the right. So on the right, we have an example, which would be just like your plastic squeezable bottle. We all know this is a much easier alternative. So when you go to a store and you're picking which ketchup you want, you're going to pick the one that's just easier for everyone. Again, another example below. It's like a design versus user experience kind of example. So we have this path, right? Beautiful design, right? Why wouldn't we walk on this? Well, I'll tell you why. This person you can see is walking on this dirt path wants a shortcut. We all want the shortest path to things because let's admit it, time is always something that we're trying to get more of. So they're taking the quickest path. It's already kind of drawn out for them, as you can see, so they don't need to follow that bad design, so to say, on the right side of that person. Okay, so why does this good UX really matter for a website? Good UX is essential for returning visitors and new customers. So we want people to really be engaged with your websites. We want them to stick around on the websites. Let's take a look at a couple examples of how it pertains to the internet. So a couple of examples here, very important items. We don't want to overcomplicate the experience. No one wants to go on a web page and feel overstimulated, confused. We want to keep it simple. Next, we're going to minimize our clicks. We need to keep action straight to the point. We don't need to be asking a million questions to get someone to subscribe, purchase, or contact. Again, this is followed by the clear call to action. A clear call to action is what we need so people can understand where they're headed and where they're going. We don't want buttons that say learn more. It's just, it's overdone. It's not very intuitive. So we want clear action calls. Mobile friendly design, again, we're going to want to keep those people excited for their website. They're going to be on their mobile phone. It has to work. Fast load times, again, it's about keeping the people on. We need to load it fast. No, you're not going to sit here forever waiting for something to load. And the visual hierarchy, the web page has to make sense.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I think we all lived through the days of dial-up internet. Nobody likes slow internet. Same with slow websites. So keeping the principles of like basic ideas, we're going to talk about some design principles that are really going to level up your website's user experience. So the first one we have is user-centered design. And this is a principle that's all about focusing on the needs, wants, and even limitations of your end user. It's about putting them first. You always want to think about people because it's people who are using your website. So making sure that you have user-centered design is really important. Then there's responsive design. So this ensures a positive browsing experience for your website visitors, no matter what device they're on. So because there are so many different size phones, there are so many different size tablets. Everybody, you get people who have a million windows on their laptop that's the size of a postage stamp. And then you have people who maximize their window to the full 27-inch monitor that they have. And there's no controlling it. So what you want to do is make sure that your experience is good for everyone. And to do that, you have responsive design. Mobile first design. Now this was really important as well. Did you know that over 60% of global web traffic originates from mobile devices? That's massive. So it's really important to make sure that you are taking this into consideration when you're designing your user experience, knowing that odds are that the person is looking at your website on a phone. It's like overwhelmingly high. So keeping that in mind is also really important. And finally, there's visual design, my bread and butter. So this is where we use hierarchy to create visually appealing, highly usable, and most importantly, effective websites. It's about making sure your site is not only beautiful, but it guides users to do what you want them to do, because that's the ultimate goal here. Okay, so we've talked about some key design principles, and let's dive a little bit deeper into the very first one there, which is user-centered design, because it's people that are in departments, not internet bots. So, I mean, at least not yet. That means that we are designing for the end user first and foremost, and in order to do that effectively, we need to understand them. So how do we do that? First, we need to get into the minds of your users. That means collecting data from individuals and groups through interviews, surveys and questionnaires, even heat maps for regular visitor behaviors. We want to collect data from real people, and that's the important part, real people, not just models, so that you can really understand the needs, behaviors, and especially pain points of your end users. What frustrates them, where are they stopping using a process, and how can you solve for that? And that's a part of user-centered design. Then we can take that data and we create what's called user personas of ideal users. So these are kind of like a fictional profile of the main groups that you want to target with your audience, and figuring out what's important to them. What are their particular goals and motivations? Are you designing for college students, for their parents? young professionals, and these groups all have different needs. And so we create kind of like a profile for each of them so that we can make sure that we're addressing what they need. And then always focusing on goals. The website should be helping users achieve their objectives effectively and efficiently. If they're going to apply for an apartment, can they do so easily? How many buttons do they have to push in order to find that application form? If it's too many, you're going to lose a sale, and that's why that's really important. So once we understand the users, then we can start designing with users in mind. And this is where things get really practical. We use information architecture. That's just a really fancy way of talking about like site navigation, really, making sure that it is clear and easy to follow. This is absolutely crucial. We can create wireframes and prototypes to test designs early and often on focus groups. And we can map out user flows to understand the steps that people are taking to complete tasks. And this helps identify, again, like I said, potential roadblocks or areas of friction that we can then address. Ultimately, prioritizing user-centered design ensures that your website is not just functional, but a truly valuable and enjoyable experience for your audience.
Thank you for that, Heather. So let's jump into designing for mobile first, right? So we need to think small before we can think big. We have, we live in a world where we all have these phones, and that's our main source of really connecting to the internet. So today, with the majority of traffic coming out from mobile devices rather than desktops, designing with mobile user in mind is going to be one of the top priorities that we have to do for any website or application. And today we're actually seeing a pull back from applications, and I think more people are getting back to browser websites. There's been an overflood of applications into a lot of markets, and while they still have their place, we don't need an app for everything. So now we're really starting to pick up the capabilities of a browser is really picking up very nicely. So we're going to keep things moving on a mobile first approach, improve the accessibility, speed, and clarity. So couple of things here. You can see on this image on the right, you have what would be a website that is not optimized for a mobile at all. On the left side, you can see it's literally just a web page stuck onto a phone. So if you wanted to view something that's not mobile friendly, you're going to be zooming in, constantly trying to read something. It's going to be a nightmare. And on the right side, as you can see, this is formatted in a way that you can scroll on your phone, you can read everything. It just makes sense. It's so much easier. So we know that poor mobile UX, we're going to get those high bounce rates, slow, unusable sites, no good. But with a good design, better results, higher engagement, and ultimately better conversions. So let's, look at a couple statistics to back up the mobile first trend. Over 62% of global web traffic is mobile. That's as of early 2025. So we know that number is going to keep going up, especially as people around the world are gaining access to internet more, as well as mobile devices. 50% of online sales are mobile. When we're out and about and we see something we want to buy, you can now just buy it off your phone so much faster. And then Google uses mobile first indexing. So this is huge. If your website is like the image on the left, Google's going to rank you down. You're not going to show very high at all on their Google search SEO. So you want to have it ready for a phone, and then that'll increase your SEO. Okay, so here we're going to jump into why responsive design matters. One size fits all screens, right? So when you have a website and a web design, you want to ensure that it's going to work for every type of device and orientation that you're viewing it on. This is important for several reasons. So the first reason is consistency, right? A user will get a cohesive experience, whether they're on their phone, tablet, or laptop. So this builds trust and comfort. We have improved usability, navigation, text is readable, the interactions are optimized for each screen size. It's going to reduce frustration. Increased engagement, a site that looks and works well across devices is going to encourage people to be on that website. It's a trust building thing. SEO benefits, again, those search engines like Google are going to prioritize the mobile friendly websites. And then we have future proofing. As new websites with varying screen sizes emerge, responsive design helps ensure that your site's going to remain accessible and effective.
Great stuff there, Michael. All right, I want to talk some more about visual design. So you know what they say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And that's true when it comes to your website too. Visual design is essentially the initial face of your website. It's what people are going to see first, whether you like it or not. We're all very visual creatures. So when someone visits your website and clicks there for the first time, it's going to instantly communicate professionalism, whatever your brand's persona is, trustworthiness, friendliness, coziness, whatever it is that you want the first hit of who you are to be is going to be in that visual design hit. And so clear and consistent visual cues will help guide your users and make it easier to understand your persona, as well as, what content are you going to offer them and how someone is supposed to be using this site of yours. So what are some ways that you create optimal visual design? There are key components that definitely want to focus on. The first being often overlooked, often very underappreciated, but incredibly important, white space. White space is your friend. White space, also known as negative space, improves readability by reducing clutter on the screen. It allows key elements to breathe, which helps them in turn stand out, which makes your content easier to scan and digest. Think about a wall of text. Nobody likes a wall of text. It's overwhelming, and people have a tendency to just skip right over it. So that's why white space is crucial for guiding someone's eye through a design. Next up, we have typography. So typography, letter forms, fonts. It can convey the tone and character of your brand even before someone knows what they're reading. Are you using a serif font? Is it bubbly and trendy, or is it sans serif, very, very to the point, upright, serious business? Like, there's so much personality that you can get out of typography that instantly conveys emotion and intent. And then there's also using different sizes and weights and styles within a typeface family. That's another way that you can guide someone's eye to a particular place you want them to look by using something like italics or a different color. Balanced layouts is another important technique to use. So this is using layouts and content that flow in a predictable manner and create a sense of harmony and make the website feel organized and professional. And I already mentioned color before. I'm going to come back to it. So color creates visual interests, and it also has a big impact psychologically on user emotions and perceptions. We have certain things associated with certain colors. Blue elicits, tranquility and trustworthiness. Red fires people up, makes you hungry. It makes you excited. So you can use things like that to your advantage when you're designing something. You can grab people's attention and put it exactly where you want it to be. So essentially, good visual design isn't just about making things look pretty. I mean, that's a part of it. It's a part that we care about as visual creatures. But it's also about creating clear, intuitive, and engaging experiences that guide users through your website. So we've talked about visual design and how it creates a first impression. But once they're past that initial look, how do you keep users moving through the site in a way that makes sense and gets them to ultimately convert? That's where the power of site hierarchy comes in. And man, I mean, look at this slide. It's so cheeky. It thinks it knows everything. It thinks it knows what you're going to do. But the thing is, for the most part, it's probably right. This is a great example, and I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen something like it before, but this is a great example of the power of visual hierarchy. The visual hierarchy in website UX is the strategic arrangement of elements using visual cues to signal importance and guide the user's eye. It's about making it clear what's most important and how various elements on the page relate to each other. This can be done by capitalizing on differences, for example, between size differences, color differences, as I've mentioned before, the way you lay things out on a page, spacing, the more area you give something to breathe, usually can signal that it's more important. So those are all techniques that you can use. And then organizing content with a clear visual hierarchy kind of acts as a roadmap, if you think about it that way. On the right here, we have two common kind of site layouts that you'll see used a lot on websites. So the F pattern is a really good thing to use on websites that have a lot of content and information that you want people to digest. You'll often see something like this used on a blog where there's lots of articles and lots of different things for people to like peruse. And then the Z layout is something that is usually used on more visually rich designs. So that would be like maybe an amenities page where you're really showcasing a lot of pictures and there's just tidbits of information that you want to move people through. So the eye is going to travel from the top over through the pictures, which is the main meat of this design. And then, you know, if there's any auxiliary information, then it's going to lead the user down to the next thing.
Okay, so let's jump into the upcoming and latest UX trends. And this is, one of my favorite parts as a designer and developer. We're seeing some pretty cool things out there, and they just keep getting better. So this is what we're kind of seeing nowadays. AI is huge. Obviously, we're hearing it nonstop, but now we're adding this to our websites. So smarter, tailored experiences in real time, voice and gesture UX, right? We don't have to click so much. We can just talk to our phones. We're going to start seeing these things a lot more in the future, and it's getting pretty big. Clean and dimensional design. We're going to keep it minimal. We're going to create that visual depth. This is something that's going to keep the user very entertained with the website almost. We're so stimulated by TVs these days and stuff like that now we need to have our attention grabbed in a similar way for a website. Accessibility first, of course. We always have to make sure the websites are accessible, and we're getting better tools now to really dial in on the needs of many people out there. So this is huge. This is very helpful, and it's great to see. Low carbon web, one of my favorite. I love just taking care of the earth kind of deals. This is a cool one. We're making the websites fast, lightweight, eco-conscious, and we're doing this by there's studies out there that show, if a website's using a dark mode or a darker screen, it's actually using less power on the pixels for your so it's using less battery power, and which is using less charge. So it's all kind of connected. It's pretty cool stuff. Moving over to the dark mode options. I don't know about you, but I love dark mode. I'm working on computers all the time. Whether you are or not, it's just kind of nice on your eyes to have that dark mode option. Let's see, immersion 3D, subtle 3D, and deeper engagements. Again, this is just keeping people really entertained, staying ahead of the curve to show like, hey, this is a very modern website. It builds that trust. Passwordless logins, always nice. I can't remember all my passwords, so when I have the option for a Face ID or a fingerprint, I usually opt for it. And then content first UX, so less clutter, more clarity. We're seeing that. We're seeing that a lot now. So you can see on this example on the right side, there might be a lot going on here, but when you really look at it for a minute, you can see that this is a very user-friendly experience. We have, they're selecting a section, it's blowing up, it's becoming larger to show more on the screen, so it's less clutter. We have those big headlines, we have those animations. This is a great example of showing where UX is kind of headed. So yeah, look forward to more fun things like this. Okay, so let's move on to how Threshold is staying ahead of the curve. In today's world, everything's moving so fast, and we need to stay ahead to really have that impact of a great website that's almost like a timeless experience. So one thing that we're doing is we're participating in conferences. We actively engage in leading UX conferences to bring fresh, informed insights to every project. The latest one we went to, we learned about AI-powered developments and a lot of core web vitals that Google is using to really rank a user's experience. Next up, we have proprietary plugins. So at Threshold, we're developing custom plugins specifically for user client needs. We have a image optimization plugin to really help speed up your websites. And we also have plugins that not only we integrate with your PMS system, but they also offer greater customizations. We're also doing survey outreaches. So we're conducting client and user outreach surveys to better understand the needs of others. Of course, it's important to stay on top of the needs of everyone that we serve. And lastly, right here, we have cultural values. Our team's values are woven into the fabric of the company that inspires innovation, right? So we're always asking what if. This is an example. This one is to ask what if. Our curiosity drives our innovation. We are also exploring new products and services to meet our clients. So stay tuned on the latest innovation announcements coming soon.
Great. Thank you, Michael. That ask what if value, I think, is definitely my favorite. I guess behind be a good ally. All right. So moving on, a website can almost have a dialogue with the user, and you call those micro interactions. And simply put, they are those small little animations or feedback-driven interactions that occur when a user engages with a specific element on your website. So today, we often don't realize or take note of them because we've really grown accustomed to them. They help guide us as well as help your users, guiding them and confirm actions. And they keep the website feeling interactive and really alive. So think of the little things you see when you interact with a website, like a button changing color when you hover over it, or a check mark appearing when you fill out a form correctly, or a pulsing logo on a map to highlight your awesome location. These little moments provide feedback to the user and contribute to a smooth and satisfying experience. So micro interactions can be found in many parts of the websites. This is an example of one. This is a hover effect. It lets your visitors know that an element is clickable. We also have the button animations that I mentioned that makes the experience feel responsive whenever you hover on that button. And then you have the scroll animation. So it's adding movement and sophistication to the site. And also, which I'll touch on shortly, are confirmation animations when someone submits something like a form or schedules a tour. But the best part is that these interactions don't have to be complex, but they have the power to improve engagement, create a sense of delight for your users. Because after all, studies show, not just any study, but a Harvard Business Review study, shows that 60 to 70% of customers are more likely to purchase from a brand if they have a positive emotional experience with it. So, micro interactions. Like I said, they might sound simple, but they can make a really big difference in how users feel about your website. Going back to that sparking joy. These tiny little animations or responses not only improve the overall usability, but also encourage users to keep engaging with more of the site. So let's break it down. Why do they matter? So first, you have immediate feedback. Imagine a prospective student or resident hovering over the Apply Now button. The button could pull slightly or change color, confirming to the user that it's ready to be clicked on. This ensures there's no second guessing. Or after they submit their application, an animation could show that the form was successfully submitted, keeping the experience smooth, stress-free, and them knowing that you received their information. Also, guiding users. When someone is filling out an online rental application or opening an online account, micro interactions can help guide them along the way. For example, if they've filled out all of the required fields, A progress bar could subtly appear at the top, showing them how far they've come. This keeps the user motivated to finish the application and reassures them that they're on the right track. And like I said, that emotional connection, they help create positive emotional responses by adding moments of delight. For example, a playful animation when a user hovers over an apartment or an amenity image can make them feel more connected to your site and to your brand. So let's check out this example. We have here, I'm filling out a form. I can't wait to live at Gateway 737, the newest student housing property for the University of South Carolina. And so I'm going to submit my form because I want to join that VIP list for next year because they're already full. And after it is submitted, I know that they've received my message and I'm going to get a response back from them because I received that message. So, and it's not just about looking pretty. Micro interactions can boost engagement, guide users, and create a positive experience. And all of that leads to better retention, higher conversions, and just really a more enjoyable user journey.
Those are amazing, Jen. One of my favorite is the emotional connection, and it's going to be on one of the points that I talk about on this slide here. So right now we're going to talk about optimizing lead generation through design. Generation or the design is the magic that is really going to create a lead for everybody. So, you know, as we discussed before, strong CTAs. We really want it to be a clear action. We want to know what we're doing, where we're going. We want to avoid vague CTAs, boring, or maybe even a button that I wasn't even sure was a button because the design was bad. Next, this is the emotional connection. We want to build a trust builder. We want to have testimonials, logos, a clear brand, privacy, all the legal forms. We need to have trust in the website to use it. Simple forms, again, we don't want to ask too many questions. A long form is going to lead me to not want to fill it out, or a million asterisks like required fields. I mean, I'm not going to want to fill it out. So if we can have a form of fewer fields, we're going to get more leads. And again, that clean layout, it's that white space that Heather mentioned earlier, super important along with that hierarchy. This will help us focus our attention to get those leads in. So good UX, you know, more trust, less friction, higher conversions.
That's great stuff. Thanks, Michael. So I'm going to touch a little bit on customer journeys and storytelling, just kind of keeping on that thread of emotional connections to things. Crafting effective customer journeys isn't just about the individual elements, it's about weaving them together to make a narrative that takes the user from point A to point B, or ideally to making that apartment application, or maybe applying for that loan at their local credit union. So the power of story is when you weave a narrative into your website experience, it creates an emotional connection and really good memorability for your users. People connect with stories. Stories make your message stick. It makes people, you know, remember if you had a really amusing kind of thank you message on a form submit, people are likely to remember that because it made them laugh or smile. That's all part of the storytelling aspect of your website. A compelling story can drive action and motivate users towards the desired outcome that you set. So then when it comes to crafting the user journey, it's important to understand user goals and stages. And that means mapping out key phases that a user is going to go through on your site and what their objectives at each of those stages might be. So you can think of these like plot points, chapters in a book, really, like what information are they seeking? Make the story engaging and interesting and suspenseful. It's good to have seamless touch points. You don't want, choppy or disjointed experiences where things don't flow or make sense. You know, again, talking about plot points, they weave together. They kind of make sense. There's a progression. There's a timeline progression in a story that makes sense to the person reading it. So making it a smooth and seamless experience really adds to that good user experience. Finally, there's the strategic content placement. That's the initial content that should hook the visitor, drawing them in and allowing you to gradually build understanding with clear, concise information. And that's going to be the unfolding of your narrative, and it will guide them through driving action, positioning, your solutions in the form of calls to actions and answers to questions that they might have about your website or your product or your apartment, and then giving them the answers that they are ultimately looking for in that resolution. Effective storytelling weaves a compelling thread through your experience, making interactions more engaging and meaningful. And if you think of your website as a story, you can create a journey that's not just functional, but again, really, really connects with somebody and becomes something that sticks in their mind.
Wow, y'all, we've covered a lot of ground today when it comes to UX and how it can impact the user experience. Thank you all. And for our viewers, you learned the inside scoop on how design affects the user experience. Let's revisit some of those key takeaways. So first, we have user-centered design. It's crucial. You want to prioritize your users' needs and behaviors by creating intuitive, accessible, and visually appealing designs that enhance their overall experience. Mobile first is non-negotiable. As Michael shared, a majority of users are working from their phone. They've got that computer in their pocket, and your website needs to be optimized with a mobile first design. Site hierarchy, as Heather shared, it really guides the user flow. If your website is well organized, the structure will help ensure that the user is guided towards key actions and improving the conversion rates. Micro interactions that I touched on can make a big impact. They're small, things like the animation of hover states and those confirmation animations, all of those guide and also create a very memorable experience and a connection to the brand. You also want to stay ahead with the latest UX trends. Staying competitive by integrating cutting-edge trends like AI, voice search, and minimalistic design into your website strategy will really position you ahead of the others in your market. And lastly, lead generation starts with design. You want your design to guide the user to take the action that you want them to. All right. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you have had as much fun as we have. And we'd like to encourage you to take these insights that you've learned today and start applying them to your website, whether it's improving your site hierarchy, enhancing your UX design, or incorporating micro interactions. You now have the tools to make impactful changes. So if you'd like to connect, we would love to geek out about websites with you or offer a website audit. You can visit us at our website, thresholdagency.com, or shoot us an email at connect@thresholdagency.com. And then also, as I mentioned, this is part 1 of a 3-part series. And so keep an eye out for part 2, which is going to be focused on web best practices and staying ahead in an ever-changing digital landscape, including AI search. So, should be exciting and will certainly be relevant. All right, well, you have a good day, and we'll see you again soon.